The child's death was supposed to go unnoticed. To the aliens, it was nothing more than a minor incident, a casualty in a conflict that had spiraled out of their control. The settlement had been a target, and in the chaos of their skirmish with local resistance forces, a human child had been caught in the crossfire. To the alien commanders, this was an unfortunate but inevitable consequence of war. They didn't even report it to their superiors, it wasn't worth mentioning. But they had no idea what they had just set in motion. Word traveled fast in human colonies. The settlers had witnessed the attack, seen the child's body, and the grief that followed was profound. What started as quiet whispers of the atrocity soon erupted into full-scale outrage across Earth and its colonies. The death of one child on a remote colony planet should have been a minor event in the grand scheme of things, but it wasn't. To humans, the life of one child mattered. It represented everything they had built, everything they had fought to protect. The first news reports were devastating. The face of the child, frozen in time, appeared on screens across the galaxy. Human networks covered the story relentlessly, how an innocent had been killed in a skirmish that wasn't even theirs to fight. The grief that spread across humanity was palpable. In every city, every space station, people watched in stunned silence. For them, this was more than a tragedy, it was a violation. A breach of something sacred. But while the public mourned, Earth's leaders moved in silence. There were no speeches, no public addresses filled with promises of justice. The human government did not need to rally its people. The course of action was clear. Behind closed doors, the Earth Council met. They spoke little, their decision already made before the meeting began. This wasn't just about avenging the loss of a single life, this was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. No one harmed humanity without facing the full weight of its wrath. The transmission to the alien race responsible was brief. It carried no threats, no demands. There was only a single, cold statement: *, you have crossed the line. Prepare for the consequences. *, the message was sent not just to the government responsible but to the entire Alien Council, ensuring that every race within their alliance would hear the warning. But the aliens didn't take it seriously. They saw humans as soft, emotional creatures, capable of anger perhaps, but lacking the resolve to act on it. They had fought humans before, small skirmishes here and there, and always found them to be formidable but restrained. This time, they were wrong. The Earth fleet had been dormant for years, its ships scattered across human-controlled space, patrolling trade routes and protecting distant colonies. But within hours of the decision, the entire fleet began to mobilize. Every available ship was called back, every reserve pilot activated. Earth had been preparing for this moment for decades, quietly building its military might while maintaining the outward appearance of a peace-loving species. The aliens had never seen the true extent of human power because humans had never shown it. Until now. Across the galaxy, human ships began to gather, converging in key locations with a singular purpose. This wasn't just a reactionary strike, this was a calculated, strategic maneuver. The Earth Council didn't want to merely punish the alien race that had killed one of their own. They wanted to cripple them. The alien empire had to learn that there were lines you simply didn't cross. But even as the fleet gathered, there was no fanfare, no rallying cries from Earth's leadership. They moved with precision, their soldiers prepared in silence. This wasn't a battle for glory or revenge, it was a matter of principle. The life of a human child had been taken, and that was something humanity could not forgive. The alien race, arrogant in their belief that humans would not retaliate with any meaningful force, continued their lives as if nothing had happened. Their commanders did not prepare their defenses. They believed that, at most, they would face some form of diplomatic backlash, perhaps a few sanctions or trade blockades. The idea that humans would launch a full-scale military response seemed absurd to them. After all, humanity had always positioned itself as a species focused on exploration, on cooperation. But that image of humanity was a facade. The aliens had seen only the surface of what humans were capable of. Now they would see what lay beneath. While the alien leaders dismissed Earth's threat as bluster, the human fleet continued to mobilize. Advanced warships, long kept in the shadows, were pulled from secret bases. These were ships the aliens had never seen before, vessels that outclassed anything in their fleets. Earth had always appeared to be technologically equal with other galactic powers, but the truth was far different. Humanity had spent years developing technologies far beyond what the rest of the galaxy had imagined, preparing for a day just like this. And now that day had come. Earth's scientists and engineers had been perfecting weapon systems that no other race had. Ships powered by dark energy, capable of faster-than-light travel without the limitations the galaxy's other species faced. Weapons that could cut through alien shields like they were nothing. Defensive systems so advanced that the aliens' most powerful strikes would be nothing more than a nuisance. For the first time, Earth's full might would be on display. And it wasn't just about military superiority. This was about something deeper, humanity's unbreakable will. When pushed to the edge, when one of their own was harmed, humans didn't just fight back. They destroyed their enemies utterly. In the final hours before the fleet launched, there was an eerie calm across Earth. The citizens mourned the loss of the child, but they knew that justice was coming. They didn't need to see their leaders rallying troops or making grand statements of vengeance. They trusted in the Earth Council, trusted in the silent, calculated response that was about to unfold. In every corner of the human-controlled territories, people watched and waited. There was no uncertainty, no doubt. The message had been sent, the preparations made. Now, all that was left was to unleash the fleet. And when the fleet finally moved, there would be no mercy. The mobilization of Earth's fleet was nothing short of a masterpiece in strategic execution. Every ship, every crew member, every single piece of hardware had its role in the unfolding plan. The alien race had no idea what was coming, still ignorant of the storm gathering just beyond their borders. To them, Earth had always been cautious, diplomatic. They didn't realize that in the silence, humanity had been preparing for the day it would need to fight with all it had. As the fleet assembled, the final checks were done with precision. Ships of all classes, from nimble fighters to colossal dreadnoughts, were brought online. They had been waiting for this moment, waiting to serve their purpose. And behind each of these ships stood the engineers and scientists who had crafted them, men and women who had spent years ensuring humanity would be ready for any threat, any challenge. These vessels weren't just machines of war, they were symbols of human ingenuity, built to defend what no one else could. The crews moved with cold efficiency. There was no talk of vengeance among them, no angry speeches or emotional outbursts. This wasn't a mission born out of rage, it was a response crafted with purpose. Each captain understood the weight of what they were about to do. The alien race had taken a human life, and now they would pay the price. But this was no mere retaliation. Earth's leaders had made it clear, this would be a lesson to the entire galaxy. Humanity would not be trifled with. While the fleet prepared for its offensive, Earth itself remained quiet, the people unified in their silent determination. Families watched from their homes, knowing that somewhere out there, beyond the stars, their protectors were preparing to strike. The unity was almost palpable, an unspoken understanding that every ship in the fleet carried not just weapons but the hopes and collective will of every human. The loss of one child had galvanized them all in ways the aliens could never have predicted. Humanity's fleet was vast, larger than the alien race could have imagined. It had been built in secret over decades, outpacing even the most advanced species in the galaxy. The sheer size of it was staggering, thousands of ships, each equipped with the kind of technology the aliens believed only existed in theory. From quantum drives to advanced plasma weapons, humanity had designed their ships for one purpose: total dominance when the time came. And that time was now. In stark contrast, the alien race still believed in their own superiority. They had seen Earth's previous ships and battles. They thought they understood what humanity was capable of. To them, humans were slow to act, always favoring diplomacy over war. It was this arrogance that sealed their fate. Their leaders didn't bother to increase their defenses, didn't bother to rally their fleets. To them, the threat was overblown. They assumed Earth would issue formal complaints, maybe demand reparations, but nothing more. They hadn't realized that the true retaliation was already on its way. The Earth Council had no interest in negotiations or drawn-out discussions. The time for talk had passed. This was about action. The fleet's commanders, experienced veterans who had seen enough of the galaxy to know how it worked, understood that their mission wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about establishing humanity's place among the stars once and for all. They had been quiet for too long, watching as other species dismissed them or underestimated their resolve. Now, they would show the galaxy exactly what it meant to provoke humans. The fleet gathered in silence, positioning itself on the edges of the alien race's territory, carefully hidden from sensors and scanners. Every move was calculated, every decision part of a grand strategy that the aliens couldn't even begin to comprehend. This wasn't just a show of force. It was a masterclass in the art of war. Earth's commanders didn't want to simply win. They wanted to annihilate their enemy, to send a message so clear that no race would ever dare harm a human again. As the final preparations were made, the fleet's soldiers and officers readied themselves for what was to come. There was no nervous energy, no last-minute doubts. They had trained for this moment for years, honing their skills and their technology until both were razor-sharp. They weren't seeking glory or personal satisfaction. They were soldiers of Earth, carrying out their duty with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you hold all the cards. Across the galaxy, the alien race continued with their lives, blissfully unaware of the looming threat. Their leaders debated politics, their citizens worked and played, all oblivious to the fact that an unstoppable force was bearing down on them. They hadn't even raised their defenses, convinced that humans wouldn't dare launch an attack. Their arrogance blinded them to the reality of what they had done. But Earth's fleet was not deterred by their ignorance. The time for warnings had passed. The aliens had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and now they would pay the ultimate price. The fleet wasn't coming to negotiate. It wasn't coming to seek revenge. It was coming to eradicate a threat, to ensure that no alien species would ever again doubt humanity's strength or resolve. As the final command was given, the fleet began to move into position, the silence of space broken only by the hum of engines and the low murmur of communications. The soldiers and officers knew what lay ahead, but there was no fear. They were ready. They had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. And when they finally unleashed the full might of their weapons, the galaxy would tremble. The fleet moved with a quiet, terrifying precision. There were no warning shots, no declarations of intent. The alien race had no idea what was coming until the first ship dropped out of hyperspace right above their capital planet. By the time they realized what was happening, it was already too late. Human ships, sleek and dark against the backdrop of space, emerged like shadows, encircling the alien system with ruthless efficiency. The fleet was so vast that the aliens had no time to react. Their early warning systems scrambled, their defense networks overwhelmed before they could even power up. They had never expected an attack of this scale, not from humans. Not from anyone. The first strike was devastating. Human dreadnoughts unleashed energy beams that tore through the alien fleet's command centers in a matter of seconds. The aliens hadn't even managed to raise their shields before entire portions of their fleet were obliterated. Human ships moved like predators, each one selecting a target with precision, dismantling the alien defenses methodically, piece by piece. Panic spread among the alien ranks. Their communications were a chaotic mess of confused orders and desperate calls for backup. But no reinforcements were coming. The humans had planned for everything, blockading the system to ensure no escape and no reinforcements. The alien commanders, so sure of their technological superiority just hours before, now found themselves completely outmatched. Human ships were faster, more heavily armed, and outfitted with technology that bypassed their defenses as if they weren't even there. It was a massacre. Alien ships, scrambling to regroup, were picked off one by one. Their fighters were useless against the human fleet, barely able to land a hit before they were vaporized in a flash of light. The humans didn't fight like any enemy they had ever faced before. There was no hesitation, no theatrics. Every move was calculated, every strike precise. It was clear that the humans weren't here to simply win a battle, they were here to dismantle the alien race entirely. The capital city on the alien homeworld fell into chaos as news of the attack spread. Civilians watched in horror as human ships rained fire down on their orbital defenses, reducing them to rubble in minutes. The government, desperate and in disarray, scrambled to negotiate, to plead for peace. But there was no answer from the human fleet. The silence was deafening. The humans weren't interested in talking. This was the consequence of their actions, and there would be no mercy. On the surface of the planet, alien leaders huddled in bunkers, watching helplessly as their fleet was torn apart. Their pride, their belief in their own superiority, shattered in an instant. They had thought humanity was weak, naive, soft. But now, as they witnessed the sheer, overwhelming power of Earth's fleet, they realized their mistake. And they realized it far too late. The humans moved with a chilling detachment. This wasn't about revenge. It was about setting an example. The fleet operated with the cold efficiency of a machine, dismantling the alien infrastructure piece by piece. Spaceports, military installations, communication hubs, everything the alien race relied on to maintain control of their territories, was systematically destroyed. The humans were wiping them out, not just militarily but economically, socially. They were erasing them from relevance in the galaxy. As the alien government crumbled, the last remnants of their fleet tried to make a stand. A handful of warships, armed with what they thought were their most advanced weapons, launched a desperate counterattack. But it was no use. Human ships intercepted them effortlessly, neutralizing their weapons systems before they could even fire. The alien commanders, once so sure of their dominance, watched in horror as their weapons fizzled out, useless against the technological marvels that Earth had unleashed. The human fleet didn't slow. They continued their relentless assault, driving the aliens further into submission with every passing moment. The sky above the alien planet was filled with fire, the remains of their once proud fleet now nothing more than debris, scattering into the void. The few alien ships that managed to flee were quickly hunted down, their escape attempts thwarted by human destroyers waiting in the outer reaches of the system. On the ground, the alien civilians could only watch in stunned silence. Their leaders had assured them that humanity was no threat, that the death of a single human child was insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But now, as they watched their world burn, they realized the truth. Humanity had become something far greater than they had ever imagined. They weren't just another species vying for power in the galaxy. They were a force of nature, an unstoppable juggernaut that had been awoken by a single, senseless act. In a matter of hours, the alien race had gone from rulers of their own domain to fugitives, fleeing from the unstoppable wrath of Earth's fleet. Their leaders, once confident in their position, now hid in fear, knowing that the humans wouldn't stop until they had made their point. The message was clear: you do not harm humanity without consequences. You do not take a human life and expect to walk away unscathed. As the final remnants of the alien fleet were destroyed, a quiet settled over the battlefield. The human ships, now victorious, held their positions, looming over the alien world like sentinels. There was no celebration, no victory speeches. The job wasn't done. Humanity had one last message to deliver. Without a word, the human fleet fired a final salvo, targeting the alien government's headquarters. The strike was precise, surgical, designed to cripple, not to annihilate. The building was obliterated, the leadership wiped out in an instant. But the planet itself was left intact, a reminder to the galaxy of what had happened here. The human fleet could have destroyed them all, could have wiped the planet from existence. But they didn't. They wanted the survivors to remember. As the alien survivors looked up at the human ships in the sky, they understood. The message was clear: humanity would not be underestimated again. With the last of the alien resistance shattered, the human fleet stood in orbit, unmoving, like silent judges over the defeated world below. The aliens, once proud and defiant, were reduced to nothing more than helpless observers, their planet and its infrastructure in ruins, their leadership obliterated. There was no defiance left in them now, no arrogance. All they had was fear, fear of what would come next. The alien council, or what was left of it, scrambled to send a message to the human fleet. It was a desperate plea, full of promises of surrender, reparations, and vows to never again harm a human being. They begged for mercy, for any chance to stop the destruction. They had finally come to understand the weight of their actions, but they were far too late. They had misjudged humanity, believing them to be weak, believing that their pleas for peace would be met with more diplomacy. They had never imagined this unrelenting force of destruction that now hovered above their world, ready to crush them. But humanity had no need to respond. The message had been clear from the beginning. This was not a negotiation, not a conflict they intended to resolve with talks and compromises. This was retribution. The aliens had taken a human life, and in doing so, they had set the stage for their own undoing. Earth's fleet remained silent, their ships dark and looming in the atmosphere. There was no reply to the alien pleas. The humans weren't here to bargain. They were here to make sure the galaxy understood what happened when you crossed the line with Earth. The planet below them, its cities still smoking, was a testament to the fact that humanity's fury was not something to be ignored. The final orders were given, not through grand speeches or elaborate displays, but with the quiet efficiency that had marked the entire campaign. The human fleet unleashed one last, coordinated strike, targeting the planet's remaining military and economic infrastructure. The alien species would not be wiped out, but they would be crippled, left to rebuild in the shadows of what they once were. The capital city was leveled with a precision that was chilling. The planet's power grids, its trade hubs, its remaining communication arrays, everything that held the alien civilization together was dismantled in moments. There were no survivors in the key military installations, no defiant remnants of an alien fleet to regroup. They were left with nothing but their own isolation, staring into the vastness of space where humanity now stood as a dominating force. In the aftermath of the final bombardment, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. News of the invasion had spread faster than any battle report could, carried by whispers among the stars. Other alien races, many of whom had once looked down on humanity, or dismissed them as a minor player, now stared in awe. They had never seen anything like it, an entire species mobilizing with such precision, such overwhelming force, all over the death of a single human child. The galaxy had known war, of course. Empires had risen and fallen, systems had been conquered and liberated. But this was different. This was a warning, a message to all sentient life: humanity would not be trifled with. They would not tolerate harm to their own, no matter how small the slight. If you touched a human, if you harmed them, you would face the full, terrifying wrath of Earth's fleets. In the corridors of power across the galaxy, alien leaders were rethinking everything they had once believed about humanity. They had always thought of Earth as a species of explorers, of scientists and diplomats. They had always assumed that humans would prefer peace, that they would shy away from conflict whenever possible. But now they realized their mistake. Humanity had been hiding its true strength all along. This wasn't about war. This was about survival. Humanity had learned, over centuries, that the galaxy was a dangerous place, and that survival meant being prepared for anything. They had built their fleets, their weapons, not because they wanted conquest, but because they knew that one day they would be tested. And when that test came, they would be ready. Today, they had proven that readiness beyond any doubt. The alien survivors on the planet below, huddled in their shelters, knew their civilization was forever changed. They would never again be what they once were. The mighty empire they had built over generations was now a shell of its former self, reduced to ruins in a matter of hours. They had thought they understood the balance of power in the galaxy, had believed they knew who the true threats were. But humanity had rewritten that balance in a single, devastating campaign. And yet Earth's fleet didn't stay to gloat, didn't revel in their victory. There was no need. Their message had been sent, their objective complete. They had no interest in occupying the alien world, no desire to annex territory or take resources. They had come to deliver justice, and now that it was done, they would leave the galaxy to ponder the consequences. As the human ships began to depart, one by one, the silence of space seemed heavier, more profound. They left behind nothing but destruction and a galaxy forever changed. The alien races who had once viewed humans as a peaceful, predictable species now saw them for what they truly were, a force of nature, capable of unmatched destruction when provoked. Earth would return to its quiet existence after this. Its people would mourn the loss of the child who had sparked this conflict, and they would continue building, exploring, and advancing. But now, the galaxy would know to leave them in peace. Now, every species that looked upon the stars would remember this day, the day when humanity had unleashed its full power for the first time. And no one would forget.